My name is Arden Leclerc, and at my sister's wedding, my mother slapped me across the face because I said no. No to giving up the penthouse I bought, maintained, and lived in. No to the life they planned for my sister, at my expense. She looked me straight in the eye after her hand left my cheek and said, "This is for the family." That moment didn't humiliate me. It clarified everything. I didn't cry, I didn't flinch, I smiled, because a slap in public is still more honest than the years of quiet thefts they called love. People talk about family betrayal like it's a dramatic shattering, but the truth? It's often quiet. 1,000 paper cuts, until one day they ask for the last piece of you and act surprised when you bleed. I stood in a navy dress beneath amber chandeliers, in a venue I helped pay for, watching cameras swarm my sister like royalty. I sipped sparkling water alone, like I always did, just visible enough to be used, just quiet enough to be forgotten. They thought they knew the version of me that would nod, comply, and fade into the background. They didn't expect what I did next. The Belmere Garden Hall was all silk napkins and staged perfection, chandeliers dimmed just enough to feel expensive, waitstaff gliding past like theater actors. I'd arrived alone, not because I didn't have anyone to bring, but because I refused to put anyone else through it. Through them. My sister Linnea stood under a floral arch the size of a minivan, wrapped in white lace and praise. "She's radiant," someone whispered behind me. "Such a kind soul." I didn't turn around. I already knew the voice. Aunt Cora. She said the same thing about me once, before Linnea learned how to charm her way through a room like she was born for it. I wore navy, not black, not red, just navy. A dress that hit just below the knee. No sequins, no shimmer, no agenda. My heels were matte leather. My bag? Just big enough for my phone, Idaho, and one folded envelope I hadn't shown anyone. When I first walked in, I caught my mother's eye across the hall. Marion Leclerc smiled too widely. My father, Everett, gave me a nod so clipped it could have passed for disapproval or indifference. I returned both with the kind of expression you give people you once loved deeply, but no longer trust with your time. I didn't eat, I didn't drink. I stood near the fountain wall, tracing the shape of a champagne flute with one hand. Sparkling water barely touched inside. I was fine being on the edge of the scene. I'd lived there most of my life. It didn't take long. "Arden!" my mother cooed as she approached. Sequined shawl, too much perfume, voice like sugar dissolving in vinegar. "Come with me, sweetheart. Just a quick family chat." She took my arm lightly, as if we were about to share a secret or exchange a joke. I glanced toward the dance floor. Linnea spun in the middle of it all, Nolan's arm tight around her waist. She didn't look in our direction. I followed Marion out toward the private terrace. My father was already waiting there, hands clasped behind his back like a disinterested executive. "This is such a beautiful night," my mother began, folding her hands like a prayer. "And we've been thinking." That was when I knew. I didn't interrupt. I let her talk. "You travel so much, sweetheart," she continued. "And the penthouse, well, it's such a big space for just one person. Wouldn't it be a beautiful gift from one sister to another, to let Linnea and Nolan start their new life there?" I blinked once. "Excuse me?" She smiled, eyes bright with fake softness. "You know it's just sitting there most of the time. You don't even decorate for the holidays anymore. It's not like it means..." "It means something to me," I said calmly. "And no." My father stared out at the koi fountain like this conversation wasn't even happening. I looked at him. "Did you know about this?" He didn't speak. "Of course he did," I muttered. Marion's tone shifted. "Don't be selfish, Arden. This is for the family." There it was. The phrase that had justified 1,000 other sacrifices. Co-signing Linnea's student loans, helping Mom refinance her car, funding this wedding deposit without credit. I stepped back half a pace. "No, that apartment is mine. Legally, personally, emotionally, no." The crack of her hand against my face was louder than the music. It echoed against marble and murmurs. My head turned slightly, but I didn't stumble. The sting was brief. The silence after? Deafening. Someone near the terrace gasped. "A cousin? A stranger? It didn't matter. No one came closer. Linnea didn't even glance our way. Nolan froze mid-conversation, eyes darting to the side like he hadn't seen it. Everett finally spoke, voice low. This isn't about you. I straightened my spine. Of course not, I said. Then I smiled. Not because I was okay, but because I wasn't surprised. I reached for the untouched flute in my hand, held it like punctuation, and turned on my heel. The hallway was colder than I remembered. My heels clicked softly over polished floor as I walked past velvet drapes, past the guests pretending not to have seen anything. My skin buzzed, not from pain, but awareness. They'd just declared war, and for once, I wasn't walking away. I didn't go home angry. I went home awake. The slap didn't bruise my cheek. It bruised something quieter, older. The place in me that had always hoped maybe this time they'd choose me too. Inside my penthouse, I set down my clutch, kicked off my heels, and walked barefoot to the office nook off the hallway. I unlocked the bottom drawer and pulled out a cream envelope, thick and slightly worn. My name was written in my grandmother's handwriting. I sat on the edge of the couch. The lights of the city pulsed beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, but I wasn't looking at them. I unfolded the letter slowly, the way you open something that's waited years to be read. Arden, I know you've never asked for anything. That's exactly why this is yours. The penthouse stays in your name. They may talk. Let them. You gave love in silence. Don't let them shame you for being steady. Beneath the letter was the second notarized copy of the revised will, signed, stamped, witnessed. It had been dated 6 months before she passed, when her mind was still sharp and her signature still carried weight. I'd never filed it, never needed to. I thought they might change. I thought maybe Marion would look at me one day and see more than an obligation. But now I saw it clearly. They never planned to ask. They planned to take. I texted Selma Grant, my grandmother's estate attorney. Need to review sealed file. Do you have availability Monday? She replied in under 10 minutes. Yes. Bring originals, 10:30 a.m. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because I was upset, because it felt right to stay awake in the place they thought I'd surrender. When morning came, I didn't check social media, didn't read emails. I made coffee by hand, ground the beans slowly, letting the motion remind me I still owned time. I sat on the terrace in my robe and watched the sun flatten over glass buildings. Then my phone rang. Hi, Miss LeClaire. This is Janet from Front Tower Management. I just wanted to confirm. Your sister Linnea's name is being added to the resident registry today, correct? I blinked. I'm sorry? Her name was submitted through our portal with a digital signature attached to your profile. We assumed it was pre-approved, maybe while you were away. I paused, voice steady. Don't make any changes. Remove her name immediately. That request was not authorized. Janet stammered an apology. Of course, Miss LeClaire. We'll log the reversal. I hung up, rose from my seat, and walked straight to the control panel by the entryway. I pulled up the smart log. 2:03 p.m. yesterday. Side elevator access. Key fob duplicate detected. I hadn't given out a fob in over 2 years. But then, like a pin dropping in a silent room, the memory surfaced. 3 years ago, Linnea crying on my guest bed after yet another breakup, makeup smeared, asking if she could stay the night. I'd said yes, offered her my spare robe. She'd laughed through her tears. I made myself a backup fob, she said. Hope that's okay, just in case. I'd let it slide, because back then, I still believed she was broken, not calculated. I checked the small bowl near my coat closet, where I kept the backup mailbox key. Gone. The same mailbox where I had dropped Grandma's envelope just hours earlier, after rereading it again. The betrayal wasn't rage-inducing. It was cold, surgical. Linnea hadn't texted, hadn't called. She just decided she was moving in. I didn't call her, I didn't call my mother. I didn't even message Claire, my closest friend. Instead, I took photos. The fob log, the missing key bowl, the HOA call history. Then I opened Instagram, not mine, but a burner account I used for real estate scouting, and searched her profile. There it was. A close friend's story she'd forgotten to block. A picture of my building's marble lobby, captioned, "Welcome to our new home, #hours." Underscore she'd posted it less than 6 hours after the wedding. I stared at the screen for a moment, letting the betrayal settle like sediment. Then I compiled everything into a single PDF, added the subject line, "Urgent, Property Access Violation," and sent it to Selma Grant. After that, I brewed a second cup of coffee. No sugar, no milk, just bitter and honest. Let them think I was sleeping. By noon, I was in the lobby, face to face with our building's security manager, Mr. Hatch, a retired Marine with a voice like gravel and eyes that had seen everything. "You're sure you want to proceed this way?" he asked, glancing down at the printed documents I placed in front of him. "I'm sure." He gave a low whistle and typed something into the internal access system. "This will override all previously issued fobs, including secondary guest access. I'll have a tech up in an hour to swap out the keypad and initiate facial recognition." "No backup entry," I said firmly. "I want all old data purged." His fingers paused over the keyboard. "That's going to ruffle some feathers." I didn't blink. "Good." He gave a quiet nod. "Understood." By 1:30 p.m., the locks were changed. Every fob previously associated with the unit, including the one Linnea had duplicated years ago, was void. I walked the perimeter with the technician, confirming that the biometric panel only registered my face and no one else's. The mailbox was rekeyed. The cameras synced to my phone. I didn't feel paranoid. I felt in control. I texted Selma the updated entry logs. She replied immediately, "Received. Let's finalize documentation at tomorrow's meeting." At 5:14 p.m., the concierge desk buzzed. "Miss LeClaire," Alan said, voice uneasy. "Your parents are downstairs. They're asking to come up. They say it's urgent." "Access is denied," I said. "They're not on the list." A pause. "Understood." 2 minutes later, my phone rang. My father's number. I let it ring twice before answering. "Arden," he said. The same measured voice he used in board meetings and apologies he didn't mean. "We didn't know things were this serious." "I'm sure. We can talk. As a family." "You mean like when you stood there while Mom hit me?" He exhaled. "Let's not escalate. You've always been the level-headed one." I pressed my fingers to the cool edge of the kitchen counter. "Before or after you tried to sneak Linnea's name onto my lease? Before or after she posted my building as hers? It was a misunderstanding." "No," I said, voice even. "You misunderstood who I've become." Then I hung up. I spent the next hour reviewing paperwork, flagging pages with color-coded tabs, will, tax records, deed copies, cease and desist draft. I wasn't emotional. I was methodical. I wasn't the sister who cried. I was the one who prepared. Around 7:30, I changed into a soft gray sweater, pulled my hair into a knot, and sat on the balcony with a cup of hot tea. The sky bled into a streaky dusk, pink and orange caught in the glass of the city. I didn't scroll. I didn't text anyone. I didn't even move much. Just stared out, letting the weight settle. Then a ding. An email. From Simone Mercer, my cousin on Dad's side, the one who moved to Chicago and kept her distance. Subject line: "You need to hear this." No message, just an attachment. An audio file. I hesitated, then played it. Clinking glasses, background chatter. Then my mother's voice, smooth and sharp. "She'll fold. Make her feel like she's ruining Linnea's future if she doesn't give it up." Linnea's voice followed, light and amused. "She wants to be loved so badly. Just make it sound like a sacrifice." Then Aunt Cora: "She's too proud to say no to your face. But she won't fight back. She never does." A laugh. Someone toasting. Another voice I couldn't quite identify said, "She still thinks she's family." I didn't move. I didn't replay it. I didn't have to. Every word was a brick in a house I refused to live in anymore. Instead, I saved the file, renamed it. They always thought I wouldn't. The next morning, I arrived at Selma's office at 10:27 a.m., folder in hand. She didn't greet me with small talk. just opened the conference room door and gestured to the seat. "Let's begin," she said. We spent the next hour drafting the cease and desist, finalizing an affidavit verifying the will, and preparing an emergency injunction in case any further attempt was made to claim the property. Before I left, she paused. "Do you want to pursue charges?" I shook my head. "Not yet. I want them to sit with what they've done." She nodded once. "Then we'll file and serve by end of day." I stepped out into the chill air of downtown with my folder tucked close to my side. It wasn't just paper, it was my name, my line in the sand. Let them try again. The cease and desist letter went out before 4 p.m., formally notifying Linnea that she had no legal right to the penthouse. I expected silence, but less than 24 hours later, I was summoned to the HOA office. When I arrived, Mr. Riley stood stiff behind the front desk, and beside him, of course, was Linnea, dressed like diplomacy itself, pastel blazer, binder tucked tight to her chest, voice sweet as syrup. "There have been concerns," Mr. Riley said carefully, "about balcony chemicals, unregistered renovations, CDs, and noise complaints. We just want to clarify." I nodded once. "Let's go upstairs. I'd like to show you something." In my study, I laid a folder labeled "They Think I Don't Notice" on the table and opened it, page by page. First, time-stamped security camera stills. Nolan, her husband, on my balcony at midnight with bolt cutters. Second, building keycard logs, proving I was out of town the day they claimed my dog was barking. Third, metadata analysis of a forged lease transfer request, linked to Uncle Boyd's assistant, not me. I didn't explain, I didn't accuse, I simply asked, "Would you like a copy?" Mr. Riley's voice was quiet. "Yes, that would be best." Linnea tried to speak. I didn't let her. "This is me being polite," I said. "You don't want to see me be thorough." 2 nights later, the HOA meeting was packed. I walked in with no speech, just my folder and a flash drive. When they called my name, I didn't defend myself. I presented facts, images, logs, notarized documents, slide by slide, no drama, just truth. By the time I reached the final document, Selma's sworn letter verifying the real will and property deed, the room was silent. No more suspicion, just quiet understanding. Mr. Riley cleared his throat. "This matter is closed. On behalf of the HOA, we apologize, Miss LeClaire." Linnea shot up, her chair scraping the floor. "This is absurd," she spat. "You're all just eating out of her hand." No one answered, not even her friends. She left. I stayed. After the meeting, Mr. Riley approached. "You ever think about joining the board?" I gave him a thin smile. "Let's just keep things peaceful for a while." That night, I stood by my window, city lights flickering like static. They'd tried to take my home, my name, and my silence, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. 3 days after the HOA meeting, Nolan showed up at my door. He looked different. Creased shirt, folder in hand, the practiced calm of the wedding photos stripped away. "I'm not here to defend anyone," he said quietly. "I just need to show you this." He didn't ask to come in. He simply opened the folder and slid a paper toward me. A copy of their prenuptial agreement. A section had been highlighted. "The condominium at 1420 Westvale shall be considered a marital asset, pending post-nuptial approval." "She told me it was already promised," he said, "that you were holding it for the family." I didn't respond. He hesitated, then added, "There were messages. From your mother, from Linnea, even your aunt. They were planning it, pushing you at the wedding so you'd give in." He reached in again and handed me a printed screenshot. I scanned it. Linnea's name, Marion's voice, all in black and white. "She won't fight in public. She never does." He exhaled. "I've filed to remove the condo from our prenup. I'll testify if you need it." I nodded once. "Thank you." Then I closed the door. Later that day, I drove until buildings thinned and silence returned. I ended up at the overlook my grandmother used to visit. I sat on the old bench and unfolded her letter again. I'd read it a dozen times, but this time the words landed differently. "You were never broken, Arden. You were just never praised for being whole. That is their blindness, not your burden. This place is yours. Your name is yours. Don't let them trade it for belonging. I let the paper rest in my lap. The wind tugged gently at the corners. They had tried to make me feel like a placeholder, but I wasn't holding space anymore. I was reclaiming it, not with noise, not with rage, just with presence and peace.